Oh, hello there. This is Alex from Tiger Skull RPG, and today I'm joined by Toby. He's, I guess you're the main printer at Mini Monster Mayhem.
I'm the only one.
The only printer, the guy. And yeah, today we're going to talk about supporting a resin figure because this is something that's new to me, and Toby is the man when it comes to this thing. So, yeah, we're gonna support the Teeth of Terror, and yeah, I guess I'll just like kind of let you maybe explain what we're doing. You were kind of angling it, I guess, to
Yeah,
get the
so
teeth.
the first thing you have to do whenever you're supporting something, obviously, is get the orientation, figure out the best way to do it. There's you got a few different factors to consider. So, I mean, the simplest way to do it would be to figure out what produces the least islands, since you have to support all the islands.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that doesn't always make the best print, though, since a lot of the time what you'll have happen is the best orientation to avoid islands winds up putting things like face down.
Yeah, and you want to think about like artifacts, like where the supports meet the model, kind of thing.
Yeah, because supports will leave little scars where you have to remove them, which
Yeah,
don't necessarily look good. So
gotcha.
you want to avoid those whenever possible.
Yeah, it's the
So in
same
this,
in FDM. I'm always thinking about that too. How I can
yeah,
stand them up and all that.
yeah. So the other concern is with models like this in particular, where you got like these teeth and the horns. Uh, Putting supports in the tips of those will blunt them a little bit.
Hmm.
So I usually try and keep horns, claws, and teeth, pointy things, pointed up. Because if
Gotcha.
they're pointed up, they don't need supports. In this case, it's actually not possible to do that.
My bad. Whoops.
Eh, it's not the end of the world. It's just you got the horns pointed one way. The only way to get both sets of teeth to not need supports is to have them pointed up. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, that means the horns be pointed down, and it actually doesn't fit. At least not a normal size printer.
Oh
If you got
yeah.
something bigger like a Saturn or an X10, then you can absolutely fit it no problem. You can fit almost anything on those.
Oh, and we're on the Mars. Yeah, it says down in the corner. Hey. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yep, I'm using Lychee Slicer, so it's not Cheeto Box. Uh, I prefer it.
Hmm. Is it? I mean, what would be, I guess, a big difference?
Um, the workflow is a bit different. In Cheeto Box, you have like I'm guessing most people who are going to be trying to do supports are going to be familiar with Cheeto Box a little bit at least. You basically have like one tab where you arrange things and one tab where you do supports. Here you've got like a layout tab, supports, preview, export. You still mostly use the layout and supports, but the settings are a bit different and the workflow is a little different. Since with Chitterbox, usually what you'll wind up doing is some kind of like something like this, where you'll attach a support to another support, and then you'll move the support to the model where you want it. Lychee, you don't necessarily have to do it this way, but usually what I'm doing is just kind of putting supports where I need them, and it has a lot of quality of life improvements over something like Cheetahbox. Like, if you look, for example, it's actually avoiding the model.
Oh, it
So
like
stuff
goes
like,
out of its way to not draw
yeah,
support to. Oh, that's cool.
and it shows you like an actual preview of where the whole support goes. I don't know if Cheetahbox does that now. It's been a while since I've used it.
Gotcha. Are you aiming for those yellow patches, or is that not necessarily?
So those show where overhangs are.
Yeah.
Uh, Also, nice thing, island detection, which takes a few seconds to run, but should show. It doesn't catch everything, but it catches a lot of it.
Does this matter? Like, what kind of does like if you have a fast PC, does this speed up? Or
I think so. I'm not sure if it's CPU or GPU related. I'm guessing CPU, but I'm pretty sure that does run faster at the more powerful PC. How much? I'm not sure. Alright, so now I got the island detections done. And this won't necessarily show every island, but it's going to show what areas to look out for.
mm-hmm.
So, like, over here. And obviously it overlaps a lot with the yellow areas. But it just kind of helps to find stuff.
Yeah.
Alright, so once you got it oriented, it's just time to add supports. I start by just areas like these where you are not going to see them.
Mm-hmm.
I just slap some heavies on there.
And is that mostly to just kind of hold the weight of the model, or does that help printing too?
So yeah, these are the initial supports, the first things that get printed. Having them be heavy, which for me is 0.5 millimeter tips. It just keeps them from moving and anchors it very solidly. I don't think I've had anything completely fall off the plate in ages. Unless there's like some huge failure.
Gotcha.
There's a couple more areas we can slap some of these on.
Is the model completely suspended right now, or is it actually touching the plate in some spots?
You're right, it is touching the plate. You're not supposed to be doing that.
Oh, really? Okay, cool.
Yeah, so just lift object 5 millimeters. And that is one of the nice things about Lychee as opposed to CheetahBox. You can actually just like manipulate the model. It doesn't delete the supports.
Wow, that's crazy.
Not always useful since it doesn't change where they're located, but you can just recalculate them. And that if you only need to rotate it like a little bit, that's very nice to have. Oops, that's not the right button. Alright, yeah, so yeah, once I get these anchoring supports on there, it's time to go through and get the main supports in.
Gotcha. How many like different thicknesses of supports do you typically use?
3. So it's kind of the same as CheetahBox in that respect, where you've only got 3 set profiles. You can just kind of go in and change them whenever you want. So it's not like you're locked into those. I generally do heavies to anchor, mediums, which for me is 0.35 millimeters, to kind of just do the main supports, add a little extra support where you don't want too much scarring, but you do need some stronger supports. And then lights, which are 0.25 millimeter for me, to just kind of catch islands.
Gotcha.
And depending on your resin, you can actually get away with very light supports.
Okay, so is there like a resin you stick to that's kind of your go-to right now?
I use Nova 3D resin. I'm actually trying to find a different one. Nova 3D is great; it has no problems, except that I've found that it doesn't really like the X10s very much. I've had some not serious issues, but things that I'm not super satisfied with, so I am looking to find another resin to use with those printers specifically.
Gotcha.
But for like the regular like Mars and stuff, Nova is fantastic.
Nice. That's cool. Yeah. I'm a future Elegoo user right here. So
You put a Mars?
I ordered the Saturn, which I'm really stoked for. So yeah, and I even ordered some Elegoo resin from Amazon. It seemed like it was a pretty good price. I was like, they're selling 500 milliliters for like $25. So I thought, let's jump in and get some.
It's actually a little high.
Oh, okay. That's another. I need to figure out. Because like when I first got into 3D printing, like I was looking at the resin machines and they were really expensive, and the resin I was seeing was like $75 a liter, $100 a liter, and I was like, oh my god, this is so crazy.
Yeah, if you're just searching for like resin generally, you're going to find a lot of the more industrial resins that are, $100, $200 a liter. If you look at the consumer stuff, you're generally looking at $35 to $40 a liter.
Oh, nice. And that's like Nova 3D as an example, I guess.
Yeah, if you're just looking on Amazon, like Nova 3D is generally, I think most recently it's been around 38.
Oh, cool.
At one point it was 35. I actually ordered the last batch I got just from the manufacturer, and that got it down to like 31.
Oh, cool.
But I was ordering a lot of resin, so
You're
that's why it
churning
was
through
so
it.
cheap. Oh
That's
yeah.
awesome. It's a good problem to have, printing too many minis.
Well, a lot. You don't need that much if you're just printing like character minis because they don't use very much resin. Yeah, but when you're doing, dragons stuff, and I print a lot of dragons, they use a lot more resin.
I imagine the dragons like probably take a lot more time to support. Like the models I'm seeing, they're spiny everywhere. Are they a pain in the ass, or are you getting pretty used to it?
They're actually not that bad, for the most part. Since they're cut up into pieces, so you can generally get most of the spikes to be pointing up.
Oh, I see. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so at this point, what I'm doing is just kind of going through finding what's left to support. Things like this, actually, just hide the columns. So things like this, I don't like. This is actually not too bad. This one is not going to be fun though.
So you're hitting like the reds and then these like big islands of
Yes.
yellow kind of thing?
So the reds are the islands. Yellow is area. Anything that is at an angle of 60 degrees or less. Or, no, 60 degrees or more from vertical.
Mhm.
So anything from level to 30 degrees up from that is yellow.
And that's just like a warning, but that should print
Yeah,
okay?
it's just kind of, once it's supported, it should be fine. But it's kind of just an indication like, hey, this might need some support. If it's too large. But, like, the reason I don't like this is because this is mostly flat. Like, it's angled. You can see it's angled, but it's not that angled.
Hmm.
So things like that are going to need more supports on them. And honestly, this might be overkill. It might not be. I'm going to leave it like that just because...
Yeah. Well, it's a surface that's facing inward to like into
Yeah,
the model.
it's kind of down and on the inside. You're not going to see it very easily. It's not a huge deal. And this one's not really the easiest to support. Not because it's actually not bad. Like the fur is actually not bad. The fur's great. It's more just the way it's posed. It's kind of tricky to find a good orientation.
Yeah, I have another figure that's like got an open mouth with teeth in it. It's on Thingiverse, and yeah, like finding a good position. It doesn't have any horns or anything to like complicate it, and just having a big open mouth with teeth is already like a pain in the butt to find a good orientation that still looks good. When you're looking down at it, but also really prints the mouth well. Because it's kind of the focal point of the whole piece, right? It's the face usually, so it's kind of
Like I think I said earlier, like generally the way to do that is just point the mouth up. Yeah, but that is one thing that probably good to keep in mind if you're sculpting something
hmm
is teeth are you generally want to have them either kind of pointed forwards or on separate pieces or something just to make it so they can be supported.
Do you get a lot of minis that are kind of submitted in like a lot of separate files that kind of key together? Does that, because I don't really download a ton of other people's work, but is that common or is that a pain in the butt if it's too many pieces?
It's very common for larger things to be cut into multiple pieces. Smaller things, not so much. It's actually not that bad unless it's in too many pieces. I think it's actually more common to have not enough pieces.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think the only ones I've only seen a few where they're just in too many pieces. And I think part of that might just be related to the fact that it takes effort to cut things into pieces. And the more
Yeah.
pieces you cut it into, the more effort you're spending on that.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to just finish the sculpt, and then say, done. There you go. You know, rather than go and have cut it up. I mean, it's not a ton of extra work, from at least the way I would do it. But
I think it depends on the model, too, and how you're cutting it.
hmm
So you have some where it's, like if you're just doing plain cuts, oh yeah, that's easy. That doesn't take all that long at all once you know what you're doing. If you're trying to do sculpted cuts where the pieces fit together and don't need very much gap filling, which is really nice when you're actually assembling the model, that takes a lot more work.
yeah, it's really nice when those seams are well hidden and you don't see like a big line going down like the arm or something like that on a figure that's pieced up.
Yeah, and that is a strong point I've seen on with a few sculptors is the parts just fit together well. But that's kind of one of the harder things to deal with for 3D printing because resin shrinks
Yeah,
and they don't all shrink the same.
that's
They don't even
crazy.
necessarily always shrink the same with the same resin on the same printer.
I guess that's probably why you print the freestanding versions of these models that are just kind of just the
Yeah.
figure without the base.
Yeah. That's exactly why I'm doing it this way.
Do you print the bases in FDM, or what's your solution for bases when you prepare a model?
So with your models specifically, I don't actually do the bases at all.
Oh, you just send them out. If someone orders one, you just send out a freestanding little mini guy.
Yeah, with these ones, absolutely. It the amount of resin it takes to make a base to fit these on costs more than it is to just buy bases.
That's funny.
So when I'm just making these for myself, I actually just have some like 3mm micro plywood bases, and I just use those. Add some green stuff and whatnot to make them more interesting. Or I'll find a 3D printed base from somewhere else. But
Yeah, that's um, there's a lot of patrons, and I'm sure on My Mini Factory you can find really like just like a collection of really nice bases, right?
yeah, there's nice bases out there, and I feel like good basing really makes a much better looking mini in the end.
Yeah, I really like when people add their own flocking and dirt to bases, like, and really kind of get creative with it. That's that was kind of the reason I left it. I left the bases all blank on these guys was because my painter friends like do such amazing jobs, you know, like making their custom bases for their figures, and I was like, oh, that's so awesome.
Okay, this looks mostly done. I think I got all the islands. Probably going to add a few more to the back of the wings here, just to help keep it stable. Again, probably unnecessary, but you know, it's better to have a little bit too much support than not quite enough.
Cool. And then you try to put it on the tips of these
Yeah,
details.
that is one of the things I learned a while back is some textures are a lot better at hiding support marks than others.
Yeah,
So
that's
on
cool.
like, the hair, if I put it on like right here, if I can find a surface it'll stick to, like you probably won't notice it because it's a light, so it's very small mark. but you're going to even be less likely to notice it if it's, like on here or like here on the tip where there's already something going on to hide it. So that is something to consider.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's cool.
Let's see. There's other things too, like these arms. Like there's supports on the bottom, but you're actually being supported by the main body because it is layers. So the main parts that need to be supported are the elbow where it starts and the hand where it starts. Things like that. And it's one of the things where I tell people all the time when they're thinking about like trying to learn how to do supports at some point. It's just practice. That's the biggest thing that's going to help you. Like it takes time and it takes effort, and you're probably going to have failures along the way. Like, guarantee you're going to have failed prints. But those are where you learn.
Yeah.
You start figuring out like what your resin can deal with, what your printer can pull off, where you need to put supports. And as you get better, you'll get a lot faster and a lot more reliable with it. So like anybody who's good at doing supports, I guarantee you they've done a lot of supports.
Yeah.
So this is looking about done. Obviously, I'll have to test print it to make sure it actually works. Just throw one on there.
Yeah.
So no guarantees yet, since this one's not tested.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna set the supports on there. I'm just gonna hit the parent button, which will consolidate a lot of the pillars.
Oh, that's cool. Kind of makes a tree out of it.
Yep, reduce the resin usage a little bit, and it makes removing them easier because it's not as many.
Yeah.
And then there's also some tall supports, so we're gonna add bracings.
Cool.
So yeah, now it should be print ready.
Awesome.
Just throw a raft on there, make it easier to pull off the plate, and save it.
Cool. I think I might have asked you this before, but like when you print it, do you take the supports off before you do your wash and cure? Like, do you take them off right away, or do you kind of just get it all cleaned up and then take them off at the end?
Oh, yeah, so post-processing is actually where you're going to see a lot of improvement in the final quality of prints. So I actually clean them all first. I know some people will like do one rinse and then take the supports off and then do the final cleaning. I'm doing a lot of models, so I don't feel like going back. Yeah. So I actually I rinse them in a bucket of alcohol, and seriously a bucket, like it's a 2-gallon bucket. It's got like a gallon of alcohol in it. And just kind of swish them in that for a bit, get most of the resin off. And then I do ultrasonic cleaner for 1 minute with alcohol. It's in a bag, so it's sealed. It's
Cool.
not the kind of, you shouldn't, if you're doing that, you should not leave it alone. Because, electricity and flammable vapor.
Yeah, right.
Just be careful with that. And then after that, I actually do a quick final rinse in clean alcohol, just to get anything left off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then after that, just let them dry. Use some heat to make the supports come off really easily. And after all of that, make sure it's dry and everything. Cure.
Gotcha. And do you use like a heat gun or like a hair dryer or like
Hot water.
Just hot water. Okay, cool.
Yeah, you can use a hair dryer though.
Yeah.
I wouldn't use a heat gun. That's probably too much heat.
Okay. I'm not taking notes. I'm not gonna have one failed print. Just kidding.
I guarantee you'll have a failed print.
Dude, I have failed so many I got a rude awakening to 3D printing just with PLA. I was expecting it to be like a toaster or
It's like it just works.
yeah, you just download anything off of Thingiverse, you hit print, and now you have this really complex thing on your table.
How naive.
Yeah, that that didn't work.
Oh, there's so much tinkering in the settings. I'm pretty sure FDM probably has more tinkering involved. I don't really know much about FDM.
There's
I have a
definitely
couple.
a lot of settings to go through for sure.
Yeah, I have a few friends with FDM printers, and like I know that it's like you gotta have the level, the speed it goes, and a bunch of other things, and then even on top of that, parts will wear out and stuff.
Hmm.
So
Oh
that
yeah,
sounds like a lot of tinkering to me.
yeah,
With Resin, it's mostly settings.
gotcha. So you just jumped
Got
right
it.
into resin, eh? And that was it. Resin printing.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, I wanted it specifically for miniatures. So,
Awesome. You've been targeted right from the beginning. You know,
I knew what I wanted.
that's cool.
I wanted minis. I realized I was going to spend way too much money if I just bought physical minis. This is like, I'll get a 3D printer in the long run that's cheaper.
Nice.
Lies.
Yeah, I know that's right. It's like I'll save money. I'll save so much money.
I still buy physical minis.
Oh yeah. Well, you
I'm,
just
I'm probably in the minority in that respect, but
what I think.
I,
I love resin printing though. The physical minis look way better than FDM minis, but I think a well printed resin mini, there's no comparison.
yeah, I actually bought some cast resin minis a couple weeks ago. Uh, Partly because there was one that I really wanted, and partly because I kind of wanted to get an idea for the differences in terms of quality and like how nice they are.
Hmm.
Um, I'd honestly say that like overall they're about equal in terms of like overall. Uh, the cast ones actually definitely had better finish in a lot of respects. The surface was smoother. Like even with resin, you do get not usually layer lines, but resolution marks,
Hmm.
mainly on shallow curves. So kind of the same areas you would with FDM. Except instead of just being on like the layers, it's actually on the like on this model, it would actually be going like along this way
Mm.
because each use pixels basically.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. The screen resolution is a big deal, and I think
Yeah, and
the
anti-aliasing can't help with that. I don't use any anti-aliasing just because when I'm printing, it generally just doesn't help.
oh really? Okay.
Well, yeah, for things that are very textured, the texture hides those marks already.
Oh, I see.
It's
Yeah,
it's mainly an issue with very large, either flat or gently curving surfaces.
gotcha. Yeah, some minis are really really smooth and really clean looking, and so maybe you want anti-alias, but
Yeah, and it
um,
also depends on the resin you're using.
mm,
So some resins will show those marks lot more easily. Other resins will show them almost not at all.
gotcha.
So there's different factors to consider. One of the things I will say that 3D printing had over the cast minis was actually just, especially with the smaller ones, they're just easier to get started on. Just because with casting you have to cut things into pieces more.
Yeah, that's right.
Because what you can print is a lot more variable than, like, a lot wider range than what you can cast.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
That's really cool. You know, people are sculpting things that, if you took it to a board game, art director, he would kind of laugh at you and say, "I'm not. I
Tell you
can't,
this can't be made.
I
You
can't
can't
send
make
this."
this.
Yeah. So it's kind of cool. Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of freedom. I mean, we can make these silly dragons, right? However we want, more or less.
Yeah, even looking at yours right here, like I'm pretty sure you can't cast this as one piece.
No, I don't think so.
And you'd
Because it's
you'd probably have to cut off at least one of the arms, probably also one of the legs, and almost certainly the wings.
hmm
The horns might even need to be separate. I don't know enough about casting to say for sure.
Yeah, I never really dove too deep into it. It seemed like a lot of preparation, and 3D printing just started exploding. And yeah, it's like if anything, I feel like I should be making crazier shit because everybody else is like making stuff that I'm like, man, I don't even know if I could print that on my printer, but people are loving it, and I think people are finding a way to print this stuff. So it's like, let's push it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've printed some kind of ridiculous stuff. Like, there's one thing I printed where the fingers on it were they were thinner than the supports. Like, and it printed. I'm not actually going to use it for anything because it's too fragile.
Yeah,
But you can print some kind of ridiculous stuff.
yeah, yeah. It's so great. I love that. I don't. Yeah, I just leave my minis kind of in the shelf, and that's kind of where they live. So for me, it's like I don't. I'm cool with
I
the thin, less than half a millimeter details.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, absolutely. Go crazier with the sculpts. Go ahead.
I'll try here. So, is there any parting wisdom, or maybe I should shut this down? This little demo here.
Um, Honestly, this is practice. But really, two ways you go about it. You can either start with something easier. I find that bases are almost always extremely simple, or just like lower detail minis. The way I did those, I jumped in with probably the most needlessly difficult sculpt I could find.
Nice. Yeah.
Not even on purpose. It was just cool, and I wanted it.
Yeah. Just jumping in
And
for
it had, yeah, just jump in head first. It's not going to be easy. You're going to have failures. Don't let them discourage you. That's how it works with everything.
Mhm. Cool. Well, yeah. One more time. Yeah. Boss Monster Minis on Etsy. Go treat yourself or a friend to a really dope miniature, and
Yeah, we got all of the Tiger Skull stuff up there.
yeah, yeah. There's lots of wicked stuff up there. Tiger Skull and what was Beastarium, the one that I really love the look of, but I can't
Yeah,
pronounce their name.
PCR. There's a couple other ones.
Yeah. Cool.
Starting to try and learn sculpting, so I can get some original models on
Oh
there.
yeah, that's right too. Yeah, you're diving into that.
Got exactly one so far.
Yeah. The Metroid brain, and then the
Uh,
spiky leg.
I Spiky Leg Dude. The Metroid I don't sell.
Oh, I see. Oh, so spiky
Uh,
leg dude is on here too, hey?
Yep.
Oh,
It should be listed as Sightless Horror.
nice. Cool. Well, I'm learning stuff every day. Cool. Okay, I'm gonna shut her down, and
All right.
we'll catch y'all later. Thanks.